Live Hangout session. Topic today is how to create a Wall Street atmosphere. So leveraging things like video walls and LED tickers and touch screens to create that Wall Street environment for your finance lab. Today's session is put on by the University Finance Lab, and my name's Ryan Cahoy with Rise Vision as well as Rise Display, and I'll be the moderator for today's session. I work for a couple of companies that have a vested interest in signage for putting together finance labs. Rise Vision, we focus on the LCDs, the touch screens, the video walls, providing the software and content behind them. And then Rise Display, we do the LED ticker screens, so the stock displays that you see scrolling around and creating an atmosphere in all of these rooms. As I mentioned, I'll be moderating. If anybody has any feedback at the conclusion of this, or anybody that's watching, suggestions for future topics, always looking forward to hear from our audience out there. So feel free to jot down my phone number or my email address on the screen and reach out to me and send me your thoughts, ideas, and suggestions. We do want to keep this a lively and an interactive conversation. So we do encourage questions. So as we get going through this, if you have any thoughts, anything you'd like answered by our panel of experts, throw those questions in. In the lower right-hand corner of your screen, you should see a green Ask a New Question button. Just click that, type in whatever you want, whatever you're thinking, and it'll show up on our end to moderate. If you see something float by that you find of interest as well and you want to vote up those questions, just hit that little plus button that's there and vote them up. That'll float them to the top. If you don't see that sidebar with that green Ask a New Question button, if you hover your mouse over your video screen, up at the top you'll probably see, it looks like 9 boxes. Click on that and there should be a blue Q&A banner in there. Click on that and it'll open it up for you. If you do have any problems getting that open or those questions to work, we'll also moderate from the Google Events page. So that same Google Plus page where you started this video, if you go back to that, right below where the video is, there's a box that'll say something like say anything or say something. You can type questions in there. So again, doesn't matter to us. Get us the questions however you want. We want to definitely direct the conversation around what you're interested to learn about. As I mentioned, putting on all this through the University Finance Lab group. If you haven't checked out the website in a while, check it out. A lot of great resources out there. There's a directory of finance labs across North America. Check it out. If your school is not listed or we don't have all the information, please send us some updates. We want to keep this as current of a resource as possible. Also, a lot of information on partners that help put labs together. If you're looking for ideas and inspiration, there's a gallery of a lot of great photos and examples out there. We've collected a lot of white papers, research papers, and then of course the Hangouts like you're seeing here. There's an archive of past Hangouts we've done available right from the site as well. We've also put together a LinkedIn group. It's just University Finance Lab. It's pretty active. I think there's almost 700 members now, but a lot of interesting conversations float around. Here's a couple of examples of recent ones. So if you've got questions, thoughts, you want to share your ideas, if you're looking to get feedback from everything from students and faculty to vendors, whether it's in North America or around the world, a lot of great people out there participating. So throw your questions up. We are trying to do these Hangouts monthly. We've done 3 or 4 since the beginning of the year. So again, those are out on the website. But if you are looking at what's coming next, in May, we're going to talk a little bit about training, so bringing real-world financial services into the lab on May 13th. So there'll be Securities Training Corporation's part of that, as well as Edward Jones, talking about some of the things they're using there. So definitely check that out. As well as in June, we're going to be talking about Morningstar and how to use some of their analytics tools for tracking portfolios and benchmarking things. If you are attending the AACSB conference, that's coming up here just at the end of the month in Tampa. We will have a booth set up. We've got presenters going every 30 minutes in the booth talking about everything from desks to video walls to simulation programs to live market data to just design a lab. So if you are attending AACSB, drop by, check that out. So with me, I've got 3 panelists that'll be sharing their experience with technology and finance labs. First is Bruce McLaren, who's the Associate Dean and Professor of Management Information Systems at the Scott College of Business and Indiana State University. I've had the privilege of knowing Bruce for 7 or 8 years now, and helped him go through a couple iterations from a room several years ago that was a starter lab to what you see here, their latest lab that was just opened up a few years back at their new home at Federal Hall. So Bruce definitely has a lot of perspective going through this a couple of times using different technology. So you can see the lab here using a couple of large 110-inch diagonal video walls, and then the ticker spanning the front of the classroom. Also joining us is Wendell Godwin, who's the dean at Stonecipher School of Business at East Central University. Outside of the lab itself, where they've got an interactive video wall and a ticker, they also outfitted a brand new building here just a couple of years back with a lot of technology. So what you're seeing here is an interactive video wall. It's got a directory and events and other information. The ticker at the top there is two-sided, so not only can you see it when you're standing in the entryway there, but people approaching the building through the glass can see the ticker as well. So Wendell's got a lot of perspective of technology throughout the entire building as he planned that facility. And then last but not least, we have Debbie Brumbaugh, who's the CFO and Director of Administration Services for Moore School of Business at the University of South Carolina. And they're one of the newer additions. Their lab's less than a year old. And here you can see, again, a ticker wrapping around the room. And this is two-sided. So again, leveraging that fishbowl with all the glass so that not only while you're in the lab you can have the atmosphere, but really from any direction as you look towards that room, you're going to see it from the outside, and at night the whole place glows. So she can share with us how that room came together. Again, if anyone's interested or you miss bits and pieces of this as we go through it, we are recording it. It will be posted out on the University Finance Lab website under the Hangouts section. So feel free to share it with colleagues or other members of your faculty if they're interested in picking up some of the tidbits we'll go through today. But also, again, we've got a whole library of them, so if you like this and you want to learn more about some other topics, they're all out there. And again, definitely encouraging questions. If you've got any questions, thoughts, things you want to learn about, we've got 3 fantastic resources here that would love to share their knowledge. Throw those questions in so that we can make sure and direct this the way you're interested in learning about. So with that, again, my name's Ryan from Rise Vision. I'll be moderating today. I'm going to start things off by having each of our panelists just give us a little bit more background on themselves. I'll start with you, Bruce. If you want to tell us a little about yourself, your background, tell us about your finance lab, some of the neat things you guys are doing at Indiana State.
Great. Thank you, Ryan. My name is Bruce McLaren. I am Associate Dean here at the Scott College at Indiana State University. I'm not a finance professor, and that limits and also enhances my ability to manage this project. I am an MIS professor, so I have some familiarity with networking and some of the nitty-gritty details that have to do with putting things in and getting them to work on our network. I think most people took a look at our main finance lab. It is located in the center of the building. It is the showpiece of our historic structure, surrounded by glass. You saw that we have 2 large video walls that have multiple pieces working at all times, and they don't stop. There's a lot of movement in those. Above those is our LED ticker that contains a lot of messaging, including a special message that's running right now that says, "Congratulations, we're now 50 years old as a College of Business." There are some pieces that I'll describe a little bit later about our student investment club and their funds, because they highlight themselves both in the LED and in the video walls. And we have some other pieces around our building. This is our second chance. So we had a lab for 5 years in our previous building. We learned an awful lot from it, and because we knew we were moving on to a new facility, it allowed us to take advantage of best practice. Things changed very rapidly from 7, 8 years ago until where we are here. Prices actually got less, and Ryan was able to give us a lot of resources from Rise to help us design. So for now, I think I'll leave it, and I'll be able to talk more at some of the other questions.
Perfect. Well, thanks, Bruce. I'll turn the keys to you, Debbie, if you want to tell us a little bit about yourself and some of the great things you guys are doing at USC with your new lab.
Sure. I've been with the University of South Carolina for many years, actually. I am a double alum of the Moore School of Business as well. And as Ryan mentioned, I serve the university from the role of financial officer and director of management administrative services. So while I'm not a finance professor, I do also teach accounting at the Moore School of Business. So when we decided years ago to build a new Moore School, a new building, we went through a long process of planning, and so I was fortunate enough to lead our particular program through that planning and visioning, as well as the design and construction, and then eventually moving into the facility. And as we looked at the existing facility we had, we knew that one of the attributes we were missing was a premier lab, a finance lab, and we wanted to make a statement in our new facility. We wanted to be able to brand ourselves and demonstrate the professionalism that we so desperately need in the highly competitive market that we're in. Higher education is a highly competitive market. We compete for faculty and students. And we felt like having the ticker and the double-sided ticker and a premier facility, we made this particular trading lab a central point of entry. It's actually at the entry of our new facility, and we feel like it makes a big statement about who we are and what we're here to do. We feel like we're here to connect to the public and the business community we serve, as well as to demonstrate that we are a premier business institution and academic facility. So we feel like that by placing the trading lab where we did at the front of our new facility, that we were able to make that statement and brand ourselves. And we've had a number of people through our building and facilities, and everybody that enters constantly comments on the fact that they love the ticker, they love the presence of it and the location of it. They're impressed with all of the technology in the trading lab itself. You saw a picture earlier with the dual monitors. We have 32 seats in our particular facility and 4 large display screens as well. And we use those for to present some of the analysis that our students are doing during class. So all of those features, along with all of the software that we made accessible to the students in the lab, have really been great features for our school.
Fantastic. Well, thanks for sharing that. I will turn the keys to you, Wendell, if you want to tell us a little bit about yourself, your background in the finance lab at East Central University.
Thank you, Ryan. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Wendell Godwin. I'm the Dean for the Stonecipher School of Business at East Central University. We're a little different than the other two speakers. We're from a much smaller university. We're part of the regional university system in Oklahoma. So unlike the large schools in our state, 25, 30,000 enrollment, we only have about 5,000 students enrolled in the entire university here, and I have about 600 of them enrolled in the School of Business, so we're much smaller. But another part of our opportunity may have been a little bit unique is that we actually built a brand new facility. So the luxury we had was to plan and over about a 2-year period to build a trading lab and into a new floor design. And much like what Debbie said, the branding of the building of the School of Business on the first floor of our large facility is a conference center. So our building is actually the School of Business as well as a conference center that would operate much like your hotel conference centers would. So we had 12,000 people come through our building last year just from a conference center point of view. But the image, the lobby, the double-sided tickers that face the street as well as into the second floor of the atrium, it branded the facility. It's given our school just a huge boost. And we'll talk more about the benefits of kind of what we've evolved into. But that's maybe how we're a little bit different. Our financial lab does have the tickers. It has the market wall as well as the world clocks. And I think the other Bruce said too, the visibility of it. It faces the street. It's got glass on 3 sides and very visible right off of our second floor lobby. When you get off the elevator, it just opens up the glass walls into the lab, and we're doing freshman recruiting today. It's a recruiting magnet, not only for students but for parents. Is a huge benefit that we received from our lab. But we also deploy stock track in the trading lab. and this is only our third semester, actually our fourth semester this year to be in this new building with the new technology. So every semester that goes by, we actually have more classes in the lab. We add 1 or 2 classes almost every semester. So that was one of the things that we heard early on was, the utility of such a costly space. But we're just, again, couldn't be more pleased with the progress we've made in just 4 semesters.
It's fantastic. Well, I think that's a great segue. I'll leave it with you, Wendell, for the next question here. Is talking a little bit about what makes your lab special? What makes it unique or different than every other computer lab on campus or within the College of Business? And what are some of the resources you engage to help design and plan out that space?
Well, if you're thinking about this, you definitely need to consider the integration of the technology, the types of walls you're going to mount the displays on, the ticker and the ceiling and the electrical, the network hookup. So having the luxury to plan that in from the beginning was a plus. But what makes our lab special, I guess, from this, number one would be the size of our university. It's not very common to have our size university with such technology in a trading lab. There's only a few of them in the entire state of Oklahoma, and they normally are the much larger universities. So that's one thing that makes us really special. We're able to deliver some incredible technology at a very reasonable cost point. But as I said earlier, the recruiting of it is what, it's just people come in that aren't even business majors that may take gen ed classes in our building are asking, what's in that room and how does it work? And from a recruiting standpoint, to be able to display the market wall and use the touchscreen functionality with parents, and I have the kids go up and touch it and do things and kind of direct them for it, kind of get them involved in it. But I guess just what makes it special is that we have such a facility, at a very small university. Our building project in the new building we moved into was a $15 million project, and the university pretty much charged me with soliciting for the donations and the sponsorships for all the technology in the building. But so I guess I can be a testimony that you don't have to be the big state universities to do what this technology will do if you just find the right supporters.
Great. I'll throw the same question at you, Debbie. Tell us what makes your finance lab different or special than other rooms, and as you guys were planning your new building, any specific resources you engaged, any architects or designers or different groups that helped you kind of map out how to make that finance lab?
Well, we certainly involved our architects as well because we were building a new facility, and then we had a team of consultants from technology standpoint that we also consulted with. But pretty much I would say the thing that helped us be successful in the rollout of ours was we used very much a team approach. We involved everybody from the finance academic chair to the director of development, because we, like Wendell was saying, we wanted the lab, we wanted it to be, a prestigious room that would be highly sought after, and we got exactly that. We were able to secure donations that fully funded everything we wanted to put into the lab, and we were able to get that commitment before we even had to commit to the purchase of any of the technology. We had the space certainly designed. One thing I would add, similarly to Wendell, is we have 3 walls that are glass, and in a finance lab you want a lot of writing space as well. So making sure that you consider that when you go through the design of your space is really important, because if it is a room that's truly going to be used for academics, that professor needs that writing space. Those students need that collaborative space for writing as well. Certainly they can share their laptops, they can share all of their information, we can share software and information, but you still need some of the space there for instructional purposes and collaborative purposes. So we were able to do that. We also have writable glass in our facility, so it wasn't that big of a problem, but we also have whiteboards in there as well. So that was important to us, I would say, and just making sure that we involved the folks that were actually going to be using the facility so that it would have all of the features they would need to make it functional. So it looks fabulous. It makes a statement, but then it's fully functional for what we wanted.
Excellent. Well, Bruce, I'll fire the same question at you. What makes your lab unique and special, and talk about some of the resources you engaged in designing the space.
Sure. Well, as I said before, it's our second opportunity. We had a design for a new building. As it turns out, we were given a historic building by Congress, and that changed a lot of our plans. So we actually built out the first trading room, and Rise was our primary supplier for that as well. And we had a little longer delay while we got into this room, but we had architects that were fully involved to help us design the space. This happened to be a post office with a very, very, very large room with the ceiling about 18 feet tall. And I'll say to Debbie, that's a real advantage because we can put things above the writing spaces, so we can write across the wall underneath the displays and underneath the two projection screens. As Ryan knows, the bad news is the higher up it gets, the harder it is to install and the harder it is to adjust. And so for those of you who might have a reason to reboot one of the computers associated with one of your video walls, it's nice to be able to reach up high enough to push a button and make it reset. So we had a budget for the new building, and we had a technology budget for the building, and I can say that we tried to use as much of it as we could in this one space. And so we actually put a number of things into a future project plan. We had a team approach, as Debbie said, of architects, and Rise was definitely involved. I was involved. Our information technology department was involved. And so we tried to get people in on the planning stages. We had a donor, one of our trustees who is an alum and who is an active trader, broker in the stock market, wanted us to have this vision and gave us a starter gift. And as it turns out, then he gave us a much larger gift. And I'd like to say that one of the key points of this trading room is that the students invest his money. They have real money, and they're investing it with the cooperation of our foundation. But he wanted it to make it be a real experience for our students, and so their work is highlighted in the room. It is a special place. It is the stop that everyone sees on every admissions tour of our university. And they'll come around the corner, and it's very tall, glass walls, a lot of bling, if you want to say, inside. But of course, when the students are having class, they're looking at what's on their own displays as well as what's coming in on the walls. It also tends to be a popular place for the university to film commercials. And so people around the state will see pieces of our lab in various commercials, and I have a picture of the commercial people filming the commercials, and it's exciting because it creates a real brand for the Scott College. We have changed our characteristic a little bit to really focus on financial services. It is also an extremely popular classroom, and in fact there are times when I have to say no for people that don't need that special space. Each of the displays at the student seats is very wide. It's a big monitor. In our previous lab we had 2 monitors, and that was too much. So instead we put in a single one. The instructor station also has a smart podium technology, so I can take the scribe and the stylus and actually write on the screen, and it will go up on both of our projector screens. And sometimes that's easier than writing and erasing on the whiteboard. The space planning was done really with conjunction with the RISE designers. Ryan was involved, and he put his RISE designers in play, and we think that made a big difference because he opened our eyes as to what was possible, and he also wanted us to see some new technology that was just emerging. And the difference in the technology from our first lab to our second lab was substantial. And of course now that technology is embedded. And I will talk about the other ticker that we have in our building. It was from our first lab. In fact, it was designed in two pieces. So there was a part outside the room in the lobby in our old building and a part inside, but it was the same type of ticker. And we actually brought it over to the new building, and we have it downstairs in our student commons section, which you might call our lobby. And it's purely a messaging ticker for student messages. And of course, I can sit on my phone or my tablet and update the messages from anywhere in the world, as long as I have an internet connection. So I'll talk a little bit more about some of the additional resources that we have in the building that are associated with the Finance Lab.
Great. Well, thanks, Bruce. Well, that's a great segue into talking about the ticker and some of the different uses of it. I'll start with you, Debbie. Let's just talking specifically about the ticker. What are some of the ways you use it? You know, other than traditional stocks, what are some of the things you're showing up there?
We like to use it, you know, as a matter of fact, we used it on day one with our welcoming. We have a welcome sign that we put up, welcome to the Moore School of Business, and so we use it to brand ourselves, but then we also have plans to start using it to also make certain announcements as well. We use it, we've had a number of visitors and business leaders through the facility, and it's amazing when you see them walk through the facility. They invariably pause right there at the ticker and look up, and they'll actually say, you'll overhear them saying, well, I'm waiting for such and such stock to come through, or I want to see what's happening here. So not only are we informing the students that we know we're here every day, and we're informing the public, and we are a public facility, and this is in an open courtyard, so and it's open to the street, and we're right within a block of the State House. So we have a lot of visitors here on the campus that actually come through, and so it's an incredible branding tool for us. I'd say, other than the value that it has from just the financial perspective, it's a branding tool for us. One thing I'd like to add at this point too, related to the last topic that we were talking about, is we waited to the last minute to finalize our deal, and we could not have been more well supported by Rise and Ryan and the guys that came in to make the install for the ticker. Because it's technology oriented, we were afraid, you know, you're timid about making the investments in technology because of the rapid changes in that world, and we held off through this long building process to the end, and they came in and made the installation on the day we needed them to be here to work around all the other architects and contractors, and did a beautiful job. So it was up in no time. I mean, the ticker went up in no time.
Oh, thanks for the compliment. Yeah, I wish I would. I wish I could tell you were the anomaly, but I'd say that there's a lot of people that wait till that last minute, and there's a lot of fire drills, and we're happy to accommodate them wherever we can. So I'll throw the same question to you, Wendell. Talk a little bit about your ticker. I know you've got both the trading room and the one in your lobby or your atrium area. How do you use those for messaging and communicating?
Much like what Debbie is saying, we do have the wraparounds in the street, and it is very visible, especially at night. I mentioned earlier we have a conference center here, so you know those 12,000 people that came into our building last year, a number of them had never been to our community or our university, and they're just amazed at what they see when they walk in. And all of those people have children, grandchildren, nieces, aunts, and uncles, and all that. So it's a great recruiting opportunity for us. But another thing to add to kind of what Debbie was saying, we actually display the flags of all of the international students that we have here. We have about 30 countries represented in our international student body, and in the old way of doing that, and it was hanging flags from rafters, and it's constantly changing. You're constantly needing to update those flags in the true form, and then they're also very expensive. Some of those country flags are a couple $100s. So when we moved into our new building, we no longer displayed physical flags. We put them all on the ticker. So we have the country flag as well as the name of the country. So that's one thing that's maybe a little bit more unique than what you've heard already. But also messaging. Recruits. We have banquets. The governor was here. And I think Debbie mentioned too. When we scroll students' names across tickers, you'll see them in the lobby lined up with their iPhone doing selfies, trying to get their name in the ticker behind it. And then what did they do with that? They broadcast it out to 1,000 people on Twitter or Instagram or whatever. So Little things like that we've learned, are really invaluable. What they'll, at least some of these students, hopefully come to our university, but that's a lot of free publicity and marketing that we're getting just because of that. We also have the markets, the video, that's what they're, the boards. Ryan, what are those called? There's the message boards that are donor wall. Is that the proper?
Yep.
And we have those throughout the building, and we have larger screens for the major donors. And if you have ever looked at their technology, it has the it's all touch screen, and the larger donors are able to have their photo as well as bios. And we've had donors that have come in that specifically donated because they wanted maybe the memory of a loved one or a scholarship and photos in great resolution, quality color on that board. And the foundation came over one day and they had a donor that had turned them down and really wasn't interested, and they sent him over to me, kind of one last ditch effort, and the guy walked out and gave us a $25,000 check because what we have that's different than our foundation, we have that digital component. And being in a conference center, it's highly visible throughout not only the students but the community and business here. So they wanted a specific photo and a bio about the memory of some loved ones that they had given a huge scholarship for. But that was one of the deciding things that helped us secure that. So in the various parts of the downstairs lobby, we have small donor programs as low as $250. Up to the ones that are, up to $2 million. That's the largest donor we have category. So, and in each of those levels, they get different messaging and different profile information on these boards. But we've had donors come in that said, I want to do that, and we said, well, that requires a minimum of $5,000, and basically they've left a check with us on their way out the door. So. That's another way that we use that. And I mentioned, I think earlier, we have the digital world clocks and all that, and being a smaller school, that's again part of that branding message for us.
Great. Bruce, I'll kick it to you. You want to talk a little bit about your tickers? I know you've got the one in the student area as well as the one in the lab, if you use those
Sure.
any different, and some of the messages that resonate, and if you want to touch on some of the ways you use the video walls as well.
Great, be glad to. One of the things that I guess my imagination it limits the kind of messaging that we could have there, and I began getting requests from student groups to put messages up, and I thought, that's really pretty innovative. So I began advertising to the students to say, well, send me a message. They're all too long, so we have to shorten it for use on the ticker. People can't wait. But as long as you don't mind taking it down and changing it frequently, students, I think, are pretty helpful. One of the professors asked me to put up stock quotes in the Student Center for 4 particular stocks. This is sort of an intro financial literacy class, and I think she wanted Google and Facebook and Apple and one other. So it's sort of eclectica, whatever people want to see there. Right now, there's a special on Chick-fil-A sandwiches at our student-run cafe. We had our invitation to come to the 50th birthday celebration, and sometimes I'll run news and sports, but those feeds can get pretty long, so I'd like to keep messaging there. On our main ticker and on the first floor in our trading room, we have space for general messages, also a very nice name of the lab, which is the Minus Financial Trading Room, named after the donor. But our student managed investment fund is a list of securities that they have in their portfolio. And so I've given them rights to do that, and it's very easy to do that with the RISE technology. It's essentially going online and authorizing additional users with their Gmail account. And certain students have privilege to go in and change that security list. And so you can see at any time how those are moving across. And sometimes I'll see people just walk into the building and stop in front of the glass and just watch the scrolling security prices. They have indexes in there, and the programming is different according to time of day. The 2 video walls in there, the right one and the left one, have different sorts of things on there, but they're constantly moving. They're multi-tab screens with graphs and charts. There's a feed of security stories from financial services industry. In the lower right corner is a scrolling list of all the securities with their current quotes in the student's portfolio. Ryan asked me to take a picture, and as a kind of watermark behind each of those video walls is a picture of our historic building. And his designers were able to fuzz it out a little bit, lower the brightness, and it's a background image, but it's pretty clear that's our trademark. And there are also 6 world clocks, and for various countries. And I remember some of the faculty from countries that we didn't have up there lobbied me to add another clock for their country. And Ryan, right now I have one. It happens to be the one on the very top that needs a battery. So I'm going to be looking for a tall ladder.
Yeah.
Elsewhere in the building, as I walk in, to each of our main entrances are directory signs, and in the place of those, in the old days, were the old letters where you push them into the board. Well, that's all electronic now, and I can sit there with my tablet or my phone, and I can make changes of people's names, their office assignments, and so forth. And that's extremely handy. And there's one more in the center of our building that has the same information, and it scrolls between the various signs of our directory. So if you just wait long enough, you'll see all of them. That one had a scrolling list of donors for our building dedication. And so that was really handy, and it was just happened to be an Excel spreadsheet that we were able to program to scroll continuously using the kind of controls that are easy to program. Elsewhere in the building, we have a student-run cafeteria, and they have a menu board, and they can program that themselves. So and they have pictures of that Chick-fil-A sandwich that they're selling on Wednesdays. We have 2 messaging boards for our MBA program on 2 different floors. So there's a lot of recruiting that takes place through those. We also have a large 55-inch display in our student center downstairs that has information about upcoming events. It has a Twitter feed, the weather. At March Madness time, Rise provided a fun March Madness template which runs scores and information about games. Very interesting. We have 2 more walls that we hope to put in with some additional funding, and I think Wendell really named it very well. A donor wall, interactive donor wall, and a video wall for our student center for the professional development portion and the advising center. And those are the next 2 things we want to buy as funds come in.
Great. Well, Debbie, I'll give you kind of a chance to expand. I know you talked about your ticker, and Wendell and Bruce talked about tickers as well as some of their donor displays and other displays. Outside of the ticker, have you deployed any other signage around and any interesting applications?
Yeah, we're a LEED Platinum building, so it was real important to us to get away from paper as much as possible and onto digital signage. And so that was one of the things that we certainly incorporated throughout the building. We also have a cafe. We have menu boards that are all electronic. We have directional signage that's electronic. We have a huge video wall down in our Welcome Center that we use to promote special events. We also recognize donors. We have a donor wall. We have an interactive board where donors can come in and actually enter their name and see, information about themselves and their gifts, or their family can come in and look up family members. So we have that on our interactive donor boards. But we certainly have, throughout the facility, we have not just in the trading room, certainly, or not just in the courtyard, but throughout the building. Every elevator, as you exit the elevator, you see a video wall. So you see some type of display where you're going to go through and actually, wherever you're exiting in the building, in the area that you're getting ready to enter, it will tell you about the events that are going on in that particular space. For instance, when you exit or enter the area of executive education, these particular events for that day, the guests who are visiting, the conference that's going on, that'll be what's being featured on the boards that you'll see as you exit that particular wing of the building. So we use them from those perspectives. We also have used them to recognize faculty, staff, and students who have received awards. So we update for those types of things, and I think it was Bruce that was mentioning, or Wendell one, that students enjoy seeing their name up there. They will stand there. They will stand and look for their recognition or their picture when they're scrolling going on. So that's been interesting. But we were leaving a building that we had been in for probably 40 or 50 years, so it was important for us to bring some legacy and storytelling down to the new facility. We used the digital signage and the donor walls to do that as well. We used a firm to help us with storytelling and with our digital signage and writing some of those stories and taking pictures and photos to put up on them so that we don't lose that history and that legacy from the old facility as well.
Great. So we're starting to kind of wrap up towards the end here, so I just want to remind everyone, if you do have questions, put those into that question and answer box. We'd love to hear from you and kind of direct the conversation as to some of the topics you're interested in learning more about. I'll fire another question at you, Wendell. I'll start there. When you were considering the lab, what were some of the goals for the display technology you had around the lab? Was there anything specific you were looking to target? And then any advice you could give to someone around setting goals for the technology as they're planning a lab?
I guess the goal would be utilization. It was new to the professors. They're very comfortable in their teaching methods and ways, and they've had to embrace that. So that's one thing that we've done. Is as far as getting utilization in the professors comfortable. Let's see, what was the question again? Another thing we've learned is we built our lab based on the current state for enrollment, and our enrollment has gone up 70% in our finance concentration. So, the wow factor, the technology. We've also at the university level and at the school level, the highest enrollment we've ever had, the highest majors we've ever had, the highest credit hour production we've ever had. So. The new building was definitely a part of that, but this lab in the finance concentration and our money and banking and our certificate program, we're already, the lab's too small. So in hindsight, instead of building 25 seat, I'd have probably done 40. But last thing I'll throw out is the donor, that when I sold the vision to donors, the first one I went to bought it. And then I had people mad because they didn't get offered the ability to finance lab. So that was, in hindsight, I guess you might want to be sure if you're going to do something like that, and ours is named as well. So I got a little bit of heat for that, because once they found out what the first donor paid for it, of course the second donor was going to pay twice that amount. So so that was one thing I learned. But the donor that we secured for our lab wrote a check on the spot and basically said, if that's not enough, tell me how much I need to add to it. And we did go back and add to it because they wanted to do things a little even bigger and better. But the technology, the lab, the concept, the vision that you can paint with this technology is phenomenal. And I'm telling you, donors will buy into it quickly. So we've already done some other things and named other things around it. You can name the software, the technology, you can name the lab itself. Just multiple. We have a finance and investment club. You can name that. I mean, suddenly everybody wants their name and logo as a part of this because it's so visible. So from those of us that are recruiting and securing donors and stakeholders and keeping a high interest level among your database and your alums and donors, it's a magnet for that. And it makes your job so much easier to do that. And the donor that originally gave this gift has already given several other six-figure gifts in other areas of the program too, outside the lab. So for me, a $50,000 donor is huge. So to have donors giving $250,000 is like unheard of at our size school. So that's a blessing that we've found as a result of all this technology.
That's great. Let's throw a similar question at you, Debbie, if you want to talk a little bit about some of your goals when you were putting together the lab and insights for others that would be putting together, and if you have any interesting stories around donors or some of the things that Wendell brought up.
Yeah, we also found that it was an easy sell. It was a very easy sell to get the support that we needed for anything we needed in this particular part of the building. One thing that I would say, too, is that our faculty have been very impressed with the facility itself. In other words, they say that it's added substantial value to their pedagogy and also the students' learning. They feel like it's added value to them. One thing that we know we were able to do in the new facility that we could not do before was we were able to expand the software offerings within the lab. So we felt like while we had, say, Bloomberg offerings or Morningstar, Capital IQ, whatever, before, we wanted our students to be able to experiment with multiple software applications and multiple finance packages. So we feel like that better prepares them for the business world. And that was an objective of ours. Not everybody has a particular type of software need or support, but we wanted our students prepared in the marketplace when they sought their careers outside of school. And we feel like this has been very valuable. We were able to get that in the new facility. We were able to give them multiple access to lots of different packages. The negative side of that, if there is a negative side to it, very similar to what Wendell was saying, this particular facility is in big demand. We even have, I mentioned how centrally located we are. We have to be careful that, and we're working on additional controls, actually security for the facility, because people that are not students, that are not faculty, that are not staff, if the facility is in such an open space, they'll come in and try to just sit down at a computer if it's left open and start trying to access the software. So that's one of the major feedbacks we've gotten from our faculty, is that often they'll have, while they're teaching, they'll have individuals come in and try to enter the room even. Things that are unheard of. You'd never have that in any other facility, but it's such a draw. It is such an attraction. And we had one faculty member that declared that he advised a class is going on and the person continued to enter and sit down. They just couldn't be told no. So, you know, if you have any question about it being a magnet, good word from Wendell's perspective, it is. But it's one that we have to figure out from our perspective. That's a challenge we've got right now, just to control. Certainly we can lock the facility, certainly it's secure, but it's the interruption of academic events that we're trying to monitor here.
That's interesting. Well, similar question to you, Bruce. Want to talk about any of your goals or any of the insights or advice you could pass along to someone, or expanding off of some of the other points that were brought up around data and donors as well?
Well, clearly we wanted to improve on the design we had from our first lab, and the first thing we did was we knew we needed a lot more seats. So Wendell, you were right. We had 25 seats in the first lab, and we have 52 in this lab. Not all will be working at any one day. I generally say about 3 to 5% might be down. We also have an extra little room across the hall, also with glass walls, with 4 seats. And that's sort of the come in and try it room, although it's not always unlocked. It's to keep someone from interrupting a class. And for a student that wants to have access to the data that comes through that feed to that room, they can try it across the hall. We know that it has improved the visibility, both with our students and our campus community, as well as in our state. We were getting a number of visitors in our old building, and we've had a few of them here as well, and I'm always willing to show it off. I do try to put the school's name on the ticker, and I always promise to take a picture of our visitors with their name on the LED behind. So Wendell, you're absolutely right. And by the way, that's harder than it looks to time that. We do think it's important that we have a brand identity with this, and so it's definitely served that purpose in our facility. And I really enjoy watching people work in there, although ironically, we put the professor at the front, so we're seeing the back of student screens, and they're not always looking at finance screens on their computers, and I'm not sure they realize that, yes, it's glass all around them. I have to say that in our first go-round in our old building. We bid that competitively. But we've had such good support from RISE, and this really isn't a commercial. This is Bruce saying what he really believes. Such great support from RISE, both in support while the lab is running and also wonderful design support, that I specified them as the vendor. And so we had their design support from the very beginning with our new facility. And I keep getting ideas from Ryan and his design team about these future technologies that we're going to embellish, and I've been writing down ideas from you two like crazy. So I would like to put in a small commercial. Indiana State University hosts each year the Student Managed Investment Fund Conference for students and advisors who are trying to run a live investment club that manage fund. It will be November 5th and 6th. Here at Indiana State University in Terre Haute, Indiana, and I'll make sure that information about that gets to the University Finance Lab LinkedIn site.
Great. I'll make sure and get that posted on this event page, and for anybody that's interested, you can reach out to us. We'll make sure you get it as well. So with that, unfortunately, we didn't have any questions coming in from our audience, but again, it's recorded, so we'll have lots of people viewing this, I'm sure. If you are viewing this and you do have questions, we will moderate the question and answer area of the Google event page, so feel free to throw in questions. We'll make sure and get those answers over to you. Before we sign off here, I want to give each of you just kind of a chance to throw some closing thoughts in. I'll start with you, Bruce. Just 30 to 60 second soundbite, things we covered, takeaways. If you're watching this, if you're planning a lab, what's your lasting advice?
Well, involve a lot of people. Involve your technology people, because there are technical issues associated that are a lot easier to resolve before the walls are closed up than afterwards. Have a great relationship with your PR department, because there will be lots of events in there, and while we may think it's we're doing a good job but it's what we do, others will want to use it to highlight the university and the kind of things you're doing. Be careful with allowing others to use, because we've had the same kind of problem, because I want to reserve it. We also reserve some time in that room for training, because it is a terrific training facility where most of our classrooms are booked all the time. So this is special, and I've actually asked the registrar to not have it as a regular schedulable room. It's been a wonderful facility, and each year we learn and we keep improving things, and I think you'll find it's a great tool.
Great. Debbie, same question at you. Any closing thoughts or takeaways for our viewers today?
I would say just to think big as you go into it. We so often, not only from the perspective of what you're putting physically in the facility, but the seating capacity. All of us, I think, have mentioned that. In other words, we do control the schedule for the space. We right now keep our space busy with just graduate courses, as well as guest speakers that are coming in and using the facility. So it's well used and it's booked, but think big about it. I wish we'd even thought of having more than one in the facility. It's been such a draw, and it's been such a tool from a competitive edge standpoint. We feel like we also have had enrollments grow tremendously. I think this past year, 17% increase in enrollments from the university were from just the Moore School. We had the largest increase in enrollments from our school, and we know it's directly related to some of these technological improvements that we've made.
Great. Wendell, to you, closing thoughts?
Yeah, Ryan, I don't know that I can add anything in addition. The comments have been great. We do have the luxury to control our space. The professors actually, we pretty much key in and key out and don't let people. The same issue here with people just mesmerized. We've had adults that have come back in from the community that have enrolled in college classes, just in our investments and some of our finance classes, just because they want to kind of see what this technology is all about. But everything else, I would echo everything. It's just your dream really big, because you're going to be surprised at the response you get from potential donors and alumni, and we could have probably doubled every ask that we have in this area, and probably found a donor that would have paid that. So that's the real, I think, the key there. I just share that is think big, plan big, ask big, and then shine at the end.
Great. Well, with that, I want to thank you, Bruce, Debbie, Wendell. Really appreciate your time, your insights, your willingness to share some of the really exciting things you guys are doing. Again, for viewers that are out there, a lot of great resources at the universityfinancelab.com website, white papers, directories, photos of all three of these labs if you want to see a little bit more about the things that are going on at University of South Carolina, East Central University, and Indiana State University. They've been great examples of ways to use technology. So with that, again, I thank you guys as panelists. I thank our viewers for attending. And as a reminder, if you've got questions, throw them into that Google Events page. We'll be happy to answer them, moderate them, make sure that you get the information and direction you need as you plan out your lab. Thank you.